It's very expensive to hire new people. It's less expensive to take care of the ones that you have. So take care of the ones you have. If everyone is like you and just follow you, that will not be a high-performance team. They will do what you ask them to do and nothing else. So for me, it's important that I invest in those people.
Using those resources put towards those moments where you can have the informal interactions. Welcome back to Still Evolving. I'm Dr. Amy Athey. Today's conversation gets into the part of leadership that is easy to say and remarkably hard to do, which is building teams where people actually enjoy showing up and where the leader has created enough safety that the smartest voices in the room feel free to disagree. Those two things sound like table stakes. In practice, they are the exception, not the rule. Let me start with the first piece, which is the social side of high performance, because it is the piece I most often see dismissed and most often underinvested in. Somewhere along the way in corporate culture, we've decided that the human side of the team was a nice to have, something to attend to after the real work was done. What I've come to see is nearly the opposite. The social fabric of the team is one of the most durable competitive advantages because it is the one thing your competitors cannot easily replicate. Compensation can be matched, titles can be matched, even flexibility and benefits can be matched. What cannot be matched is a workplace where people genuinely like the humans that they work with, where the leader has invested time in knowing them as people, and where the connection between the team members is strong enough that leaving would mean losing something that money cannot restore. In my book, Moment Ready, I write about connection as one of the 4 capacities that allow high performers to show up well in their moments that matter, alongside with composure, clarity, and courageous action. Connection is what gives leadership its staying power, because performance built on relationship compounds over time in a way performance built on transaction never does. And connection is not built inside quarterly meetings or quarterly reviews. It is built inside the small, ordinary moments that most calendars treat as optional. At the meal shared with the team, that walk in between meetings, the 10 minutes at the start of a call that has nothing to do with the agenda. Those moments look inefficient on a spreadsheet. And on a ledger of what actually helps keep a team together through pressure, they are anything but. The second piece of today's conversation lives just next door to connection and is where the real work of building a high-performing team lives, which is the safety it takes for a team to actually challenge the leader. This is the thing that separates leaders who say they want diverse thinking from leaders whose teams actually deliver it. Because the truth is, telling a team that dissent is welcome does not make it so. What makes it so is what happens the first time someone actually pushes back on the leader in front of the room. Do they get thanked? Do they get heard? Do they walk out of the meeting still respected? The people watching that exchange are learning the real rules of the culture, and they are calibrating for the rest of the year based on what they see. Leaders who understand this are unusually deliberate about welcoming challenge, staying open when it lands hard, and rewarding the courage it takes to raise it. Leaders who do not understand this end up with quiet rooms full of talented people who have decided that it is just not worth the risk. The version of leadership that treats challenge as disloyalty gets loud attention right now, and there is a certain vibe to the either you're in or you're out style that has been elevated as the standard of decisive leadership. What I find is that the leaders who actually build enduring, high-performing organizations tend to work the opposite way. They know that if everyone in the room agrees with them, they have selected for compliance rather than capability. They know the person who says, I don't think this is good enough at the exact moment the leader wants to move on is often the person doing the leader a favor. And they know that welcoming that voice is not soft, it is disciplined, because it means holding the discomfort of being challenged in order to end up with a better outcome than the one their own certainty would have produced. What ties social cohesion and the willingness to be challenged together is that they have both lived on the same foundation, which is trust. Without trust, connection is superficial and challenge is threatening. With trust, connection becomes the fabric that holds the team through pressure, and challenge becomes the mechanism that keeps the team's thinking sharp. The leaders who build both are the leaders whose people rarely leave, whose teams perform well above their weight class, and whose organizations tend to be more adaptable than the market gives them credit for. That is the territory that today's guest works in every day, and the way that he has learned to cultivate both across teams in different countries and across 3 decades of leadership. And this is exactly the conversation worth having right now. My guest today is Jan Færch. Jan is a seasoned executive with more than 30 years of leadership experience across international commercial roles, including a significant time as CEO and general manager, building and leading teams across multiple countries and cultures. His career has been anchored in the belief that people are the true engine of business, and he has built his approach around investing in the humans on his team with the same seriousness that most leaders reserve for the numbers and targets. He is known for creating climates where his teams both perform at a high level and want to keep showing up for the work and for each other. What makes him exactly the right voice for a conversation about social cohesion and the invitation to be challenged is that he treats both as leadership disciplines, not personality quirks. He has thought carefully about how to build presence across distance, how to protect the human side of the week when the calendar wants to consume it, and how to actually stay open when the smartest person in his organization tells him he is wrong. Jan, welcome to Still Evolving. I'm really glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
We have talked a bit before this recording, and something near and dear to your heart when we think about building high-performing teams is the role of the social cohesion and how leadership can work to create not just high-trust climates, but also connections between the team members and leadership. Can you share a bit more of what you have seen in your journey and why that social cohesion is so near and dear to your heart?
Yes. I've been a manager for many years, I think 30 plus years now. And something that, I think has created most value throughout those years is the social bond you can create amongst people. And I'm a people person, so I like people. I find them interesting, and I see value and resources in all people. So for me, it's very natural to have that social bond with people, even if I'm their manager. Mm-hmm. And I think especially being a manager, it's important that you invest in the people you are managing. So for me, it's quite important, and there are many reasons to it, because people spend a lot of time at work. It's a big part of their life, and it should be a happy place to go to. You should have fun. You should be challenged, of course, and stuff like that. But it should also be a place where you can trust each other and you can have fun together. And I think that social part of the work is very important in order to reach the targets and achieve the goals.
When we talk about social cohesion and the importance, it sounds like you've found tremendous value in being able to connect with those members and create that cohesion towards the execution of those goals. What are some of the challenges you faced in that? Or perhaps you've observed in other leaders as they were working with their teams to facilitate a climate and facilitate those interactions to create those bonds? What perhaps got in the way, or certainly you had to maybe work differently so that you can reach that cohesive goal?
Yeah, that's really hard to say. I think, when you're a manager, you have, a budget or something. You have something you can spend on different things, and mostly your manager, because I also have a manager, would probably prefer that you use your resources in one way, and for me, I think it's also important that you have fun. So having the team out for dinner is an investment to me. I invest in people when I spend resources on them having fun and eating a dinner together, having a drink or whatever. It's an investment for me because everyone has competitors, and if you have the best people in the business, and you should have, then your competitors would like to hire them, and they can match the salary and working hours and benefits and all of that. But what they can't match is the co-workers and the manager. So if you like the people you work together with, you're very reluctant to change workplace. So for me, it's important that I invest in those people so that no one can, buy them from me.
Mm-hmm. To have those moments and using those resources put towards those moments where you can have the informal interactions and really get to know someone, a bit further than, what are you working on today and what's the challenge to that end. I was talking with an executive leader the other day who just took over leading this organization and certainly in that onboarding and that transition was faced with a bit of hesitance and a bit of guard. I would say probably best to say that they were very guarded of him, right? Like they were just wondering, who are you? And he was having a hard time kind of breaking through and creating a bit of connection with the new leadership team. And he shared with us, his only goal for this next meeting was just to get to know him outside of work, the coworker that he was speaking to. And sure enough, it ended up being a conversation around scotch that actually broke through a bit in that connection. And we were talking and it just made me laugh. He was like, yeah, it doesn't matter what I've done in my entrepreneurial or leadership career, business. He also is an attorney. He's like, it doesn't matter any of those accomplishments, my track record coming in. It really came down to he knew scotch and that's what turned the tide. And it kind of made me chuckle that you never know really where you have this opportunity to connect. But if you're only in the office space and you're only really having conversation around deliverables, execution, who needs what, resources to get them to hit that X, you really limit your opportunity to connect because people are very diverse in their experiences and interests. And it just made me chuckle, his story.
Yeah. I think it's funny as well. But I think the people there probably already knew what he has done before, and they, because when you get a new boss, you look into who is that guy and what has he done and something like that. So all of that, there's no need for him to tell them because they already know. I'm very verbal with those things, and I, the first thing I do when I get a new team or I get a new position, I call in the team and I tell them, what can you expect from me as a manager? So telling them that they can trust me. I will never let them go because they disagree with me, or if they think that they have an answer and I don't have it, they should give it to me because I want to be challenged. And creating that safe place for them to really be outspoken and come with ideas and challenge the manager. I want that to be a safe place to work. And I tell them that they can do that. They will never ever be let go because of sharing their opinion. Mm-hmm. If they can do the job, that's a different thing, and we will talk about that. But an idea or an opinion, that's very welcome.
Mm-hmm. There's some leaders, and many of them are unicorn leaders of high visibility and have the microphone often talk about, their approach to this is either you're in or you're out, right? Either you believe in what we're doing or there's the door.
Elon Musk.
Right? When we got in conversation, I was interested to hear your response that in some ways as a leadership that seems too easy as a strategy in leading. Talk to me a little bit about your reaction to that concept.
Yeah. I think if you're building a high performance team, you need diversity. So if everyone is like you and just follow you, then you don't have diversity. So that will not be a high performance team. They will do what you ask them to do and nothing else. I would like people to have their own mind. They would like. I would like them to challenge me, and I've seen it many times. And it's a struggle, to be honest, to be a manager and people constantly challenging you. But when I, set the path and I say, this is how we should do it, I should also be able to explain to them why and get them on board. That's my job as a manager. And if I can't do that, if they keep challenging me, I haven't done my job good enough. So that's, and I remember especially one time I was renegotiating pricing and terms and stuff with a customer, and we did several iterations, and I felt now we are, it's as good as it's gonna be. And I handed it over to my finance manager, and she was not happy. She said, "This is not good enough." And I was the CEO, so I could just say, it is what it is. This is what we get. But she didn't, approve. And for 2 full days, we discussed it. And it ended up with me going back to the customer saying, actually, we are not happy with this. We need to, maybe do one more push up on this. And we got a better deal. So she was very happy that I actually acknowledged that she was right. And I went back and did more work because she said so. And, the relationship between us was immensely better after that.
Wow. Yeah, it cost you a couple days there. And certainly
it did.
Probably having to step outside of what felt comfortable for you.
Yes.
But nonetheless, it sounds it gave you not just this deal, this better deal for the business, but really strengthened the bond that you guys had in working together towards, growing the business and leading the business. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, those members of the team, when they're voicing concerns or even their opinions, can also turn very negative, right? Like you'll hear language like, oh, they're a cancer on the team or they're toxic on the team. How have you differentiated those who perhaps are expressing opinions or difference from those who are the dark side of that negativity, whereas they could really undermine the mission of the organization, certainly undermine perhaps this cohesive fabric that you have worked to develop on the team? And how do you differentiate that negativity, the spectrum there of negativity?
Yeah, there's a difference between, challenging an idea and then just being plain negative. So when I see that, I find that when you're a manager, you're also a coach. So you need to coach them and, talk to them, find out what's behind all this negativity, because sometimes it's something else. Actually, quite often it's something else. It could be even something in their private life. And when people are negative a lot, they're not happy. And you should be happy doing what you're doing. Your work should create happiness for you because you do that a lot. So when I find people that are very negative, I ask them, should we talk about this? And still, it helps that they feel secure with me, that they feel safe. So they open up and tell me what's really wrong. But sometimes it means they have to do something else. They're not doing a job. Probably they're not succeeding at the job, and that's, a struggle for them. Or maybe they're doing something they really don't like to do. They would probably like to do something else. And their skill set is not matching what they're doing today. So when we talk about that, and if we have trust between us, I would like, and I would actually love to help them find another job where they can be happy and more positive.
Mm-hmm. So really being able to move beyond kind of the surface emotion, which is frustration, negativity in some fashion, and to understand the undercurrent. Like, what is the disconnect perhaps between their interests and their current role, or perhaps their skill set and their current role, that the disconnect, and kind of unpacking that a little bit. It does take, you mentioned the role of coaching. It does take taking the time to ask questions and being open and curious to unpacking a bit of that for that person. And then on the flip side, for the team member, it requires them to also take a risk and be real, right? You know, I think oftentimes in these conversations, we focus a lot around leadership conversational strategies and how leaders can create these open and high trust environments by asking open-ended questions, listening, practicing the pause before giving direction. I think we probably need to also look at the time we're spending talking about the role of followership. And there's significant leadership skills in followership, but one of the big ones is also your willingness to be able to directly communicate your needs and directly communicate your concerns. And so if your leader comes to you as you're describing and observing, hey, I notice this pattern. It doesn't seem like you are very fulfilled, or you have these overarching concerns. It just feels a bit negative to me. Talk to me a little bit about what your experience has been, or what may be going on for you. And if the team member says, oh, nothing, I'm good. Well, it's really hard, right? For a leader to who is seeking to better understand that team member's experience and support them in meeting their needs or finding that better fit, as you described. It's really hard for that process to continue if both parties aren't willing to be uncomfortable and be real in that conversation. It's tough.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's even more tough if you're, that kind of manager who is not social bonding with your employees, but, only talk numbers and targets and stuff like that. If you have to talk numbers and targets, of course, but you also have to be more social, engaging with your employees, and you have to get to know them. So what I've done with success many times is to do a walk and talk. So let's take a walk and talk about something else than work. Then you get to know people, and then you understand their frustration sometimes, because I know there's something in your family that's troubling you, and maybe you need a couple of days off to fix that or whatever. So learning about, what their private life is all about, and getting them, to trust you, that they can tell you stuff like that without me sharing with anyone. It's confidential, and that helps a lot. So walk and talks are good for that kind of thing.
I love that suggestion. Honestly, I think oftentimes you get out of a space that is priming additional anxieties or stress, right? You get out of certainly the benefit that comes from just the physical movement. And then on top of that, oftentimes people are next to each other rather than facing. And so if someone is having difficulty opening up, even that more limited eye contact kind of can help people. This is why you go to a bar, right? Like people sit next to each other, right? It feels a little less intrusive. But I love the walk and talk idea. What would you tell a leader, or what advice would you give a leader who feels like they just don't have time for this human side?
Make time for it, because it's very important. It's very expensive to hire new people. Mm-hmm. It's less expensive to take care of the ones that you have. So take care of the ones you have, and make sure that you know them, and that they have fun, and they are challenged, and they like their work, because it will reflect your result if you don't do that. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we wrap every episode with coming back to a piece of like a tool, a tip, a strategy, something that our guest has been able to go to on a routine basis over weekly or daily throughout their journey that has enabled you to sustain this journey. Perhaps something that helps you feel grounded, helps you be able to reflect and then perhaps adapt or even feel renewed. Can you share back with us maybe something that you have found in your journey that really helps you stay grounded and sustain that high performance leadership throughout?
Yes, I've been a manager for teams in different countries, and that's a challenge sometimes because you have to be present. And how can you be present in a country you're not in? So, of course, Teams and Zoom and whatever, it will help. So what I found is that what works really good is to have regular meetings, at least once or twice every week, where you go through numbers and targets. And it sounds, a bit too much to talk about the target every week, but it's never too much. Yeah, it's very important to be very open, communicative with your people and tell them the target numerous times. Mm-hmm. So everyone's aware that you can wake them 2:00 in the morning and they will know exactly what the target is. That's important. And you can do that once or twice every week, but then also set aside once a week a meeting where you never talk numbers or targets. Just, how are you doing? What you're doing for the weekend? What happened this weekend? Stuff like that. And that bonds the team together. So they get to know each other and see how different they are and learn that the resources and qualities that I have, someone else has other qualities that maybe I can use. And they learn that in those social meetings, not in the meetings with numbers and targets.
Really balance that out and look at that holistically, where you are dedicating the time, the space for that human connection. And certainly what doesn't get lost is our overall mission. Where are we headed and what do we need to achieve?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been a pleasure, and I'm just grateful for you joining me today on Still Evolving. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.